First day out, baby! 25th year.
They probably ain't gonna understand what I'm talking about. Past interference that these people won't challenge. I got inside my to make sure I don't panic.
Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to Wolfies Grill, Wabash Landing in West Lafayette. I'm Rob Blackman and so nice to have you with us because tonight it's time for the Matt Painter Radio Show. Plenty to talk about tonight with the coach. As a matter of fact, we haven't visited in the last 2 weeks, so that means 4 games worth of Boilermaker basketball to talk about. All 4 of them victories. It started with a victory over Wright State. That was before Purdue headed to Uncasville, Connecticut. And then the Boilermakers winners over both North Carolina and Villanova to win the Hall of Fame Tip-Off Classic. And then, of course, Boilermakers beating Omaha in the last game since we have last spoken. So 4 games to speak about here with Coach Painter. And, of course, we look ahead to tomorrow night's Big Ten ACC Challenge when Florida State comes to West Lafayette to battle our Boilermakers. For those watching tonight on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter Live right now, what you are seeing is the Larry Clisby bobblehead. Just came into the athletic offices at Purdue University earlier today. This Larry Clisby bobblehead, if you're thinking to yourself, how can I get my hands on one of those? You'll have to be one of the first 2,000 people in the building Friday night when Purdue hosts Iowa for the Big Ten opener. As Friday night's game against the Hawkeyes is the Larry Clisby Recognition Night at Mackey Arena. And as part of our recognition festivities, we will be giving away these Larry Clisby bobbleheads. The bobblehead for the Cliz, first 2,000 people in the building Friday night for that 9 o'clock tip against Iowa. It's been a little bit of a secret about the Larry Clisby Recognition Night and all the different things that are going to happen on that night. But one of our secrets is out of the bag, and that is the Larry Clisby bobblehead. So you're looking at that right now for those watching us on video. And again, if you want to get your hands on one of those, and by the way, it does have, it has a little audio clip. If you push the button, it does say bullseye if you push the audio button. So pretty cool stuff as we honor the Cliz Friday night at Mackey Arena. So busy week, obviously. Florida State Tuesday, Iowa Friday, with the Cliz Recognition Night taking place on Friday night as well. When we come back, we'll visit with Coach Painter. Again, we're live at Wolfies Grill, Wabash Landing. Here's the phone number if you'd like to visit with Coach, 1-888-246-2678. And oh, by the way, before we go to break, I think I failed to mention, this week, our Boilermakers ranked number 2 in the Associated Press poll. First time since 1988, Purdue has been as high as the second-ranked team in the country. Coach Painter joins us next. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
Turn him into a 2-point shooter today.
Ivy turns the corner and puts it off the glass and in.
Scouting report right there.
Who is so good up front for Purdue, checks into the game coming off the bench. Should be one of the best players in the Big Ten. And here he is. Nice look. And he feeds Caleb first for the flush. Mark from Newman, and there's that rebound that you talked about. Newman, another shot at it. Hits that one. Yep. Finally gets one to go. Brandon Newman, and Purdue by 5. 80 wide open, a two-handed stump. And Purdue by 5. 80 wide open, a two-handed stump. Lakers down by 7. Ivy. Edie on Slater, off the glass and good. He's got 10.
But they have 4 linebackers out there.
Inside first.
Matt Painter's not coming
Inside. Williams to the line.
That's why. Whoa!
And here's Stefanovic, intercepts the pass and lays it in. Samuels went flying. Great save by Ivy.
Nice.
And the feed, Ivy, the first time out, Villanova. Stefanovic finds Edie who throws it down. Moore hesitates. Ivy blocks it. tied at 62. Ivy first. Boilermakers with the lead. That one tipped away. Edie gets it back. Inside and one. Oh, boy.
Welcome back, everyone, to Wolfies Grill. Time for the Coach Matt Painter radio show. You can find us here Monday nights at 6 o'clock as we talk Boilermaker basketball with head coach Matt Painter. Coach Painter show is presented by GEMCO. And again, we appreciate you joining us here on this Monday night talking Boilermaker basketball as it's about to get real serious this week, Boilermaker fans. Not only is Florida State coming to town tomorrow night, but then the Big Ten schedule officially begins for Purdue Friday night when the Iowa Hawkeyes are in town to visit our Boilermakers. Purdue head coach Matt Painter is alongside, and Coach Painter, I'll start with this. Ranked number 2 this week in the Associated Press poll. Look, I understand the calendar hasn't even turned yet to December, so there's still a long way to go in this basketball season. But I have to think there's a sense of pride for your players, your staff, the support staff, knowing that nationally you're recognized as the second best team in the country. That is quite an accomplishment, and congratulations.
Thank you. I think it's something to really build on more than anything. You know, you want to be there in about 3 months. I think that's the goal, is to be able to be one of the best teams in the country, you know, at the end of it, but obviously going into the tournament and putting yourself in a great position. But I think the Villanova, North Carolina wins, obviously the respect that they have. They've won 3 out of the past, I think, 6 national championships. I think, you know, when you do that, and now being able to play a team that's given us trouble in Florida State, who got picked second in their league, second or third in their league. I know it was Duke, North Carolina, Florida State. I'm not sure the order, but they've had a lot of talent, and they still do. And so it's going to be a really tough game. So you can look at it as a sense of pride and try to build off of that. But if it gets you to where you show your hand a little bit or you relax, you know, you're going to be in trouble and you're going to get beat. So you have to understand that it's a great honor to keep moving up the rankings, but getting better and improving and winning the next game is more important.
You are correct. I beg your pardon, Florida State ranked number 2 preseason in the ACC poll coming into the year. We are live at Wolfies Grill with the largest view of the game outside of Mackey Arena. Before we go in depth on Florida State, Coach Painter, it's been 4 games played since you and I last visited. Wright State and Omaha were a couple of blowout victories for your team, so we'll limit our time talking about those. But what about your team's performance in Uncasville, Connecticut, that Hall of Fame tip-off classic, beating 2 very good teams in North Carolina and Villanova to take home the championship?
Well, probably more impressed with just how we finished those games. We had foul trouble in the first game against North Carolina with Zach and Travion. They both played really well in some key stretches, especially Travion. Travion had 20 points in 13 minutes. Obviously, his minutes were limited because he was in foul trouble, but our ability to score the basketball in the North Carolina game in the last 10 minutes and our ability to score it at the end against Villanova, we made 11 straight field goals. Defensively, we have a lot of room for improvement, in my opinion. We did play better at the end of both games, especially Villanova the last 8-9 minutes. It helped. They missed some free throws too. But I think that's the key, is just to keep getting better on a defensive standpoint, keep sharpening what we do offensively, just our efficiency. We're the number 2 efficient offensive team in the country. We have some really startling stats from an offensive standpoint. And our defensive stats are good. They're not great, but we just got to keep working in that area. If we can take care of the basketball, we have a group that can really rebound the basketball. Caleb, Zach, and Travion all average around 7, close to 8 rebounds apiece. And so we've done a very good job there. If we can limit our turnovers and then keep getting better on defense, I think we have a chance to have a special team. You mentioned the turnovers. Right now, that number's at about 12.5 a game, turnovers per game. In the perfect world, and you may not say 0 as the answer to this, by the way, in the perfect world, where would you like to see that turnover number? 8. 8, yeah. 8 to lead the country. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. So when we led the country 10 years ago, it was 7.8, and so that's where we had 7.8 turnovers. And that was when Rob Hummel was a senior, and we couldn't rebound, we couldn't guard anybody, but we shot 40% from 3. We made 40% of our field goals were 3s, and we turned the ball over a fewer amount of times. We set a record because we lost twice in Mackey Arena with less than 5 turnovers, which is close to impossible to do, but we pulled it off. And so that's really the gauge. And Michigan with John Beilein did it a couple times. Wisconsin's done it 3 or 4 times since I've been at Purdue. Our league normally has 2, 3, 4 people at the top 10 and fewest turnovers. If you can dominate the glass and then be a great ball control team, and you have people that can play, you're really putting yourself in an unbelievable situation.
Well, and we talked about the victory over Villanova. They, coming into that game, one of the best in the country and rarely turning the ball over.
Yeah, and they had 0 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah.
So they end up with 4, and I think at least 3 of them were in the last 6 minutes of the game. So their turnovers were costly when they did have it. So
it is Purdue and Florida State Tuesday night, Purdue and Iowa Friday night. We will talk about those games, I promise you, but there's still plenty to talk about with Coach Painter about what has happened since the last time we have spoken. We'll take a break, when we come back. The Matt Painter Show presented by GEMCO continues in a moment. This is Boilermaker Basketball from Learfield.
Message.
Ivy quickly to the goal and puts it in.
They are a hard-cutting team, Purdue. Dive.
Loose ball. Edey gets on the floor, and it's saved. Here comes Ivy. Stefanovic gets another. Kick out McCoy.
Watch this speed.
Ivy, great look as he finds Caleb.
Yes, sir. Speaking of USA basketball.
Dawson Garcia with 13. Stefanovic with 14. And Ivy just bullied his way to the basket there.
See that stop and start?
Ivy
rattles
it home. It's another 3.
That is hard to do.
3.5 to go at a 7-point Purdue advantage. Ivy rejects the screen, kicks back. First to 3. Got it!
Noticed that yesterday we watched practice. A lot of sharp ball movement, spacing. Watch out.
Oh, look out! Jaden Ivey.
Look at this. Watch out. Hello! Kerwin Walton was too open. Look at his speed.
Ivy. Stefanovic. Oh, baby.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Inside. And here's Ivy.
Here he comes.
Full head of steam. Taps and buries one. Walton the other way. High off the window. Edey rebounds. Ivy. Euro step off the glass.
Ivy just made some money.
For Jaden Ivey with 20 points. And first wide open.
Show presented by GEMCO. GEMCO Constructors supporting your Boilermakers as the presenting sponsor of the Matt Painter Show. Proud partner of Purdue Athletics. GEMCO Constructors says boiler up. Lots of folks checking in tonight on Facebook Live. Thank you for that from Hobstadt, Indiana, where they're celebrating a Gibson Southern Football State Championship, by the way. Congratulations to you folks. Also checking in from Richardson, Texas. Thanks for everyone checking in tonight. You can call the coach and be a part of the show at 1-888-246-2678 if you would like. Coach, one interesting thing about that victory over North Carolina, going back to the tournament in Connecticut, for the first time and only time all year, you were forced to play an extended period of minutes without your 2 big guys, as both Zach Edey and Travion Williams had gotten into foul trouble. You played small with Caleb First at the 5, which he's 6'10", so I don't know maybe how small you really are, but just talk about maybe how your team was able to weather the storm playing with that lineup.
Yeah, we have a real luxury with, a guy like Caleb, because he can play, the 4 and the 5. To be able to have Zach and then have Travion and have him, you just kind of move towards it, and especially with, Sasha Stefanovic, Ethan Morton being able to play the 4, and you play smaller, you can really move the basketball, and you have some advantages there. There can be some disadvantages at times, especially because they haven't played in those spots a lot, but it's still basketball, and if you take care of the ball and make good decisions. So yeah, it was one of those things where I can go back with those guys, but they held serve for us at that time. So I think it was about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it was, and you got both of those guys with 2 fouls. I kind of look at them as one player anyways, And so that, you got 10 fouls between them, and they've only used 4 of them. So you got 6 for the second half. And so we were very secure with it. And if anything would have went sideways there, I'd have went back with one of those guys. But it didn't. They held serve. Caleb did some good things out there. Our team did some good things. And then we just kind of kept it right where it was until halftime. So it was great.
Travion had 20 points in that game in 13 minutes, 8 of 10 shooting. That is awfully efficient.
And then the baskets he was getting late in the game were key baskets. It wasn't one of those things where he comes in and we're up 20 points. Travion made some great plays and scored around the rim, and it was great to see, because it's hard sometimes. It is hard when you get into foul trouble because the frustration sets in, but he was able to push through it.
That victory over Villanova, 80-74, the only game this season Purdue has not scored into the 90s. That's how good Purdue has been offensively this year. But when I looked at some of the numbers, and I'm looking at them now from that game, Coach, you had in that game 5 different guys were in double figures. Travion in that game had 9 points. So you were basically 1 point from Travion away from having 6 guys in double figures. It just felt like everyone in that game contributed for you.
Yeah, it was, we got off to an all right start, and then we kind of plateaued out. And then the start of the second half, they played better than we did. At 10 minutes, they played better than we obviously played better the last 10 minutes. But, yeah, we got contributions from everybody. And I think that's the tough part on my end, that you have options. And so, what are you going to get from each guy? They got to play. And sometimes guys, when they get out there and they don't play well in the first 2, 3, 4 minutes, how patient can you be when you got people over there sitting down that, can contribute, because they can contribute. And so it goes back and forth a little bit. But there at the end, I thought we did some really good things. And like you said, we had great balance.
The other thing that made the Villanova game a little bit more different than any of the other games to this point in the season was you had Mason Gillis back. Would you mind talking us through how you worked him back in? Is it a preconceived notion this is how many minutes we're going to give him, or is it just a kind of having a feel for when you think you should work Mason in for his first minutes of the season?
Right. No, it wasn't fair, just because, he's coming back in the middle of a tournament. So you play a game, he can't play. Then your next game is less than 24 hours away, then he can play.
Yeah.
And so, trying to kind of get a feel for – the thing I talked to him about was I've never been around people that have been out for 4, 5, 6 games, and they come back and they're fluid and they play great. Mm-hmm. So I talked to him about that. I said, hey, I think it's concentration. I think it's the attention to detail. You have to be able to carry out your job and know what you're doing right here. And he knows what he's doing, but you still haven't got the same reps as everybody else. So when he got out there, I thought he did some good things in the first half. And in the second half, right as he subbed in, it was a very delicate time, because they were starting to push on us.
Right.
And when they did, I went with him first, no pun intended for Caleb, and then played him about 2.5 minutes, and I switched real quick and I went with Ethan, because I thought we had to get a little smaller, because they were just stretching. It seemed like they were just making every corner contested 3.
Yes.
That was
Yes,
out
it
there.
did.
So I was like, man, we got to get somebody. And then we didn't do well. Then we went back with Caleb, and then we actually made the move the last 8 to 10 minutes of the game. But no, it's an inexact science, to be frank with you. It's not something, as a coach, you want a lot of things to come to you organically. Everybody always has opinions about what you should do, but they're not there every single day. And so sometimes you have too much information. The people that you talk to, they have too less. And so when you're dealing with somebody that's going through something like he went through in terms of being out those 6 games, now coming back, you want to just say, hey, he's the Mason Gillis of old, because he has worked on his game. He does know what's going on, but you still haven't got those reps. So you just gotta watch. And I talk about with guys, what kind of mistakes are they making? Are you making a mistake trying to do what we're asking you to do, or are you physically incapable of going against a certain guy and being able to do the job that we're asking you? What is the layer there in terms of the breakdown? And then you just got to figure out going forward, is this best for us with this person or with somebody else, especially when you get into a game like that with Villanova.
If you'd like to visit with Coach Painter tonight, the phone number is 1-888-246-2678. We'll take a 2-minute break, come back and continue our visit with the coach. This is the Matt Painter Show, brought to you by GEMCO from Wolfies Grill here in West Lafayette. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
At Unity, second and goal, right back to Horvath, and he ran into his tight end, Payne Durham. The ball squirts out. A flag on the play. O'Connell appeared to flop on top of the ball. Clean pocket for Gremmel. On the check down, it's Irvin Poindexter, a walk-on himself. He's out across the 40-yard line to the 41. There it is. Gremmel tries to step through, cannot escape. Branson Dean, another Indianapolis native, with the sack. Gremmel steps up. George Karlaftis wraps him up. And a 5-yard loss on the sack. Standing defensive linemen that have come through this program. 3rd and 14. Caught by the tight end Hendershot. He was originally at the first line of scrimmage to start this drive. Nowhere close to a first down. Given to the top player in college football who began his career as a walk-on. He picks up a fumble there and is tackled by Branson Dean. 3rd down.
You're going to make this game get blown out of the water by Purdue.
3rd and a mile. Screen to Hendershot, the tight end, who shrugs off Jalen Graham, but didn't even get to the 30-yard line. 4th down.
Here he is right here on the outside, and they're in that 4-3 with those linebackers in.
Gremmel in trouble. And finally thrown down. Kydron Jenkins finished him off. First drive of the second half. 4-man rush. Gremmel complete to Hendershot. Play clock almost expired. The sweep to Childers goes nowhere. Kieran Douglas with the tackle. The 1st and 10 from the 30. Grant Gremmel nearly threw a pick. His tight end saved him.
The Matt Painter Show, presented by GEMCO, live tonight at Wolfies Grill with the largest view of the game outside of Mackey Arena. Wolfies Grill right here on the Wabash Landing in West Lafayette. Coach John Shondell is watching us tonight on Facebook Live, and we should give Coach Shondell and Coach Dave Shondell a huge shout-out. He and the Volleyball Boilermakers hosting NCAA tournament play this coming Thursday and Friday. Thursday against Illinois State, and then with a Purdue victory, they would play again at 5 o'clock on Friday in the round of 32. So good luck to the Volleyball Boilermakers coming up Thursday and Friday as well at Holloway Gymnasium, obviously. Coach Matt Painter.
We got to get John cable.
Yeah, here's a good point.
Yeah, he's watching our radio show. We got to get Showtime on HBO or something. Like, what's he doing?
You don't have Netflix, Coach? This is your only choice on a Monday night?
People from Muncie. Yeah, they're still playing bridge on Tuesdays.
Going to the break, Coach, we were talking about Mason Gillis coming back and now eligible to play again. So that gives you a legitimate 10-man rotation, 10 guys that can legitimately play high major college basketball. A good problem to have, and more importantly, how do you kind of massage that rotation with only 200 minutes to give up between 10 guys?
Well, it's a good problem to have. And, like, you know, with Trey Kaufman, like when we had talked to him about redshirt, it's like, you know, how does this look once Mason comes back in the fold? And, you know, that's, you know, you would rather have this issue than too few of players. Like, you'd rather, like, hey, man, we're short on the front line.
Yeah.
You know, we're short in our backcourt. And now, you know, now it's just trying to mesh everybody together. But, you know, Coach Katie used to talk about this. I talk about it all the time. If you walk into a locker room after a win and somebody is upset, that's their problem. That's their problem. If you walk into a locker room and somebody doesn't play as much and we lost, you know, and you're upset. If you're upset about losing, I'm with you, 100%. Like, but you don't sit there and play the blame game. Like, you have ample opportunities to impress, you know, the coaching staff and put yourself in the best possible position. The one thing that happens is when you start a season and you get going, now there's not as much practice time and competitive time in those practices because you're gearing up to play in a game. And so, like, now, like, kind of where you are, like, you have to be able to take 8, 10, 12, 14 minutes and make the most of it so it can grow. You know, because I always, when someone's mad about 14 minutes, I always say 14 is not the lowest number. You know, you're mad about 14. What about 0?
Right.
You be mad about that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you're not getting in at all, then you know you should. But, like, take your 8 to 10 minutes and be mature about it and do the best that you can and be a pro in your role. Now you can grow that. Maybe you can't grow it that season to 30, but you can get it to 15. The one thing that you can build, and a lot of people don't talk about this in recruiting, is you can build a trust level. It's just like any other relationship you're in, any other business venture you're in, no matter what. If you deal with people that you don't trust, it doesn't work. Like, you have to be able to trust people. And like, you see people that are talented. I'm not into the world of talent. I'm into the world of production. Like, how well do you play to help us win? That's what it's about. So you take talented guys, sure, but now how productive can they be? Well, a lot has to do with your attitude. A lot has to do with the people around you too. Like, if you're hearing all these things, it's really, really hard to get a clear mind and play up to your abilities. But if you're thinking the right way and say, hey, this isn't going the way I want, but man, I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to cheer my teammates on. I'm going to put extra time in. Now I'm going to help myself. And it might not help me that week or that month, but as I progress, it's going to definitely help you, get better and help yourself put in there. But I always talk about a player on Butler's team, Ronald Nord, that's now in coaching. He's with the Pacers. But I think it's his sophomore year, he started on a Final Four team. On his junior year, he didn't start. And one of the TV guys said to him, he goes, well, how do you feel on this Final Four team since you're not starting? He says, I didn't come to Butler to start. I came to Butler to win. All right. And it just, like, it set a tone, but it also let you know. I think Butler's the only program ever to go to the Final Four, and they have like 40% of their starters like get into the workforce afterwards. Like, if you have a starting five and you go to the Final Four, like, all those guys play professional basketball. Right. They had guys. It just shows you what a tremendous coaching job and just a tremendous sacrifice those Butler players made, because they were still great in their roles. They had guys that could play defense. They had guys that could make shots, but they knew Shelvin Mack, Gordon Hayward, Matt Howard. They knew those were the cogs in the wheel and the main guys. But then they were superior defensively. They were superior as a team, and they were just unselfish. And that's what a team's all about, and that's what you're trying to get to. So those are the type of things that we try to talk to our guys about. And with that being said, our guys have been great. Yeah. And what I don't want them to be is I don't want them to be happy about playing less minutes, but I want them to be professional about it. Because when you get upset, you're more or less saying somebody shouldn't be getting something, and that's not the way it is. You make mistakes sometimes as a coach in terms of those situations, but you don't make them for a long period of time. The answer normally comes out if you're that guy that should be in there more than somebody else. Well, the fact of the matter is, Coach, your team is 6-0. You're ranked second in the country, but Big Ten play starts on Friday. So we're at that point in the season where now you reflect and say, we need to be better in these areas if we want to be a real contender in the Big Ten. So my question to you, where do you see areas of improvement needed if you want to be a legitimate contender in the conference? I would say from a defensive standpoint, like, we have played and shot the ball well, but can we beat a good team when we don't shoot the ball well? Mm-hmm. Obviously as a coach, you don't want that to happen. But if it doesn't happen for us, it'll be the first time in the history of college basketball. It's going to happen at some time. You don't want it to happen 10, 15, 20 times, right, but it does happen. And when the ball doesn't go in for you, you don't make your free throws, you don't make your open shots, can you still beat a quality team? That's a true test of a team, especially when you're on the road, because that's hard when you go into other people's venues. It's not as easy as people think it is, and simply as by making a shot. So I think that's going to be the true test for us. Keep getting better on the defensive end, but don't forget, like, a lot of times you want to just stuff some things in the attic like they're solved. Like, taking care of the basketball is never solved. You keep working on it. Rebounding the ball is never solved. You got to keep working and keep getting better. But when you're doing things well, don't forget about those things. Still try to improve. Like, sometimes you can only go so far in certain areas, but like, we're the number 2 ranked offensive efficiency team in the country. We can still get better. We can still make better decisions. We can still lower our turnovers. And so, like, that'll get lost sometimes. And at times, just keep working and keep improving and keep having a good attitude. More with Coach Painter when we come back here on the Matt Painter Show, presented by GEMCO. Stay with us. This is Boilermaker Basketball from Learfield.
Trammell with the block, kept up by Bush. Now Newton, dug by Sarame, kept alive by Hornum. Bump set to Newton, through hands and down. Geddes can't find the floor. Newton does. Newton off hands. And Edwards is rejected. Match point Purdue. At Hornum. Bush set to Cleveland. Cleveland kept up by Sarame. but not enough. 4 hits is called, and that'll do it. Cleveland with the kill, and the Boilermakers win it 25-20 here in the 4th set. Max with the turn, looking for the quick ending here. And there it is. Side headlock, just clips around. He's just sucked back a little bit. Now he does chest to chest, and that'll do it. Going there, another tilt. This is 4 counts. They'll take the 10-0 advantage. Through the definite, well, just as I say, we lose the aggressor. Samba in with his own takedown straight to the back. Chest to chest. LaRue desperately keeping his blades off, and there it is, the fall.
Purdue sitting there at number 6. They have been hot and really, really hot.
And as all 16 of these teams will host first and second rounds.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Matt Painter Radio Show, live tonight from Wolfies Grill on the Wabash Landing in West Lafayette. I'm Rob Blackman alongside the coach, Matt Painter. Time now for the Pro Boilers feature, where we look at how former Purdue student athletes are doing in their professional sports careers. Pro Boilers is presented by Indiana Kitchen Premium Pork Products. Get to know us at indianakitchen.com. Both our Pro Boilers and Indiana Kitchen are Boiler-made. And today we talk a little baseball. We talk Kevin Plawecki, the former Boilermaker who was the 2012 Big Ten Player of the Year. His junior year playing for the baseball Boilermakers. Just finished his 7th season in Major League Baseball, playing this year for the Boston Red Sox. Helped them go all the way to the American League Championship Series before losing to the Houston Astros. Pretty good season for Kevin as a backup catcher. 64 games this year for Kevin. Hit .287 with 3 home runs and 15 runs driven in. Kevin Plawecki, what a season for him with the Boston Red Sox, and we hope he continues to have an outstanding career in Major League Baseball. If you want to visit with head coach Matt Painter, here's the number, 1-888-246-2678. That's how you can reach the coach. All right, Coach, let's talk about Florida State. They'll come in tomorrow night 5-1. They don't have 1 7-footer. They don't have 2 or 3. They have 4 7-footers on their roster. We like to brag on our 7-footers around here, but holy mackerel. And look, whether they're 7 feet or 6'10", 6'11", 6'4", whatever, defensively, that's where they make their hay, right? They've always been so good on defense.
Yeah, very interchangeable. Take away passes, switch everything, switch 5 ways. So you got to be able to move the basketball. They do a great job of stopping the ball, swarming the ball, making it hard for you to pass and catch. They really put you in a bind. The thing that they are, and I try to talk about this with our staff, is like being different. Like when we're all copycats. We all steal from each other. So if you watch the NBA is a copycat league. College basketball is a copycat league. And so everything people always say, like, I mean, you guys run good stuff. You guys do this. You guys do this. I said, yeah, I stole all of it. And so it's like, very rarely do you see people that come up with things. They might start something, but how things build. And, when you look at those things and you look at what they do, I don't know if we played anybody that switches everything. Like they will switch the littlest guy on the biggest guy on the littlest guy at all times, and they just take you out of things. You got to be able to play off the dribble. You got to be able to, when they swarm it, to be able to make good passes. A lot of things are behind you. They really protect the paint, and then they're just long and athletic. If you just think of the guys that they've had here since we've played them, I mean, it's pro after pro. I mean,
right.
They have so many guys right now in the last 5 or 6 years that are in the NBA, and more guys coming from this team. So I think that's the number one thing for us is getting quality shots. We're a good offensive rebounding team, and we're probably a great offensive rebounding team. So getting a quality shot each time. We've shot the ball well. So even if you don't, like, you're still giving yourself a chance. But I always say you can't rebound a turnover. And, if you're turning the ball over, you're getting pick sixes. It's going to be you take bad shots and you turn it over against them, man. They turn those quick ones, man, into points. And that's probably the hardest thing to do against them, is just being able to get into practice, watch film, and talk about it and work against it, but you're not working against them. I told our guys today, we can't be adjusting to things that we're talking about at halftime. Our adjustment has to be now, so we have a full 40 minutes of playing and understanding and playing to our strengths.
Let's take a phone call for Coach Painter. Dale in Indy. Dale in Indy, you're on with Coach Painter. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Coach. I just wanted to thank you for putting this team together, you and the other coaches, all the hard work you do to put this group together, because they're obviously very talented and fun to watch. But like you said, it's not always about just the talent. They seem to get along. They seem to be Purdue guys, and that's all really cool. My question is, I used to be a basketball official, and from your perspective, I know for like a decade now we've had all these big guys. Are the officials in general doing a better job officiating the really big guys, or is there still a problem with some of that? They seem to get fouls when they're just bigger. I'll hang up, and appreciate you, and go Boilers.
There you go. Well, thank you. I think it lies in different officials. I can't give an answer in theory that they all understand, like somebody like Zach, because they don't see somebody like Zach all the time. Zach, I think they really struggled to officiate Zach last year starting the season. And then as the season progressed, he did better and they did better. And so you got to do your part as a player. The thing that he gets difficult is when he just has a basic turn, where his elbow is where your head is. And that's if you're 6'8" and he's 7'4", when he turns, if you both were 6'8", he would just turn and just kind of put his elbow in your shoulder, and it wouldn't be anything, wouldn't be a call. But now your elbow touches somebody above the shoulders. Now, that's automatic. But that isn't fair for him, especially in a post-up position, because, when you post up with people, you got to post up above the block, and you got to read the baseline, how you're being defended. Then you got to have a feel, because you can't see them. So, when you catch the basketball, your feel is just where you're at on the court, your sense of what's going on around you. But then when you turn, you can't determine things because he's behind you and you're looking the other way. So a lot of that is just off your feel, and so he gets penalized sometimes with that. But for the most part, he's really made a lot of improvements with that. And Isaac made improvements as he went along in terms of things. So as long as the player, we clip things and watch film with them and tell them you have to do your part. Sure, you're getting a couple bad calls here, but don't let that lead to where now you're outright getting frustrated and now you're getting more offensive fouls, because that's what it normally comes down to. It comes down to the tough offensive fouls. They call you for hooking, they call you for holding, but kind of like it's tough for us to go against Florida State because we're not practicing against Florida State. You can sit there and talk about big people, and then you get to a game, and then all of a sudden Zach's there, and you just don't realize how big he actually is. Normally guys of that size can't move very well, and he's a guy that plays hard and he moves well, and he really puts guys into binds. But that's a good question, because a lot of officials, that's where they're defunct in most areas, because sometimes you officiate without low post play now. It used to be everything was low post play. Now in college, in our league, you'll see more low post players. You see Kofi Coburn, you see Hunter Dickinson, you see Trace Jackson Davis. The beat goes on. There's some really good, I missed a handful of guys. There's some really good low post players in our league. So you see more post up things, but you'll go and play people and nobody will post up. I'm not obviously those teams, but you'll especially you get into the tournament, you'll face people that just, they're just going to spread you out and shoot threes and drive the ball, because that's kind of how the games went. So I think that doesn't help officials, because they can sometimes go 3, 4, 5 games without officiate any low post play, whatsoever.
This is the Matt Painter Show, presented by GEMCO. We'll be back in a moment. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
Turn him into a two-point shooter today.
Ivy turns the corner and puts it off the glass and in.
Scouting report right there.
Who is so good up front for Purdue, checks into the game coming off the bench. Should be one of the best players in the Big Ten. And here he is. Nice look. And he feeds Caleb first for the flush. Mark from Newman, and there's that rebound that you talked about. Newman, another shot at it. Hits that one. Yep. Finally gets one to go. Brandon Newman, and Purdue by 5. 80 wide open, a two-handed stump. And Purdue by 5. 80 wide open, a two-handed stump. Bakers down by 7. Ivy. Edie on Slater, off the glass and good. He's got 10.
But they have 4 linebackers out there.
Inside first.
Matt Painter's back inside.
Williams to the line.
That's why. Whoa!
And here's Stefanovic, intercepts the pass and lays it in. Samuels went flying. Great save by Ivy.
Nice.
And the feed, Ivy, the first time out, Villanova. Stefanovic finds Edie, who throws it down. Moore hesitates. Ivy blocks it. Tied at 62. Ivy first. Boilermakers with the lead. That one tipped away. Edie gets it back. Inside and one. Oh, boy.
Welcome back to the Matt Painter Show, presented by GEMCO, live at Wolfies Grill with the largest view of the game outside of Mackey Arena. It's brought to you by GEMCO Constructors, supporting your Boilermakers as the presenting sponsor of the Matt Painter Show. Proud partner of Purdue Athletics. GEMCO Constructors says boiler up. Let's go back to the phones, visit with Coach Brian from Decatur. Welcome to the show. You're on with Coach Painter.
Hey, Coach. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Hey, my question, I guess, is you spoke earlier in the program about the ranking, being ranked number 2, and how you kind of build on that. And I guess kind of from a player's perspective, you see, the players, they obviously look at the rankings, they see what's going on around college basketball, and Gonzaga beats UCLA, and then Duke beats Gonzaga, and then the natural progression of rankings, you would think number 3 would be number 1. But having Duke leapfrog us like that, is there maybe like a sense of disrespect the players are sensing from the Associated Press on that, or I guess I was just kind of curious what the players are thinking from your point of view.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what they're thinking. I don't talk to them about that, to be frank with you. But it's, there's a lot of things in place when you start a season, but guys get ranked to start a season off what they're returning and what they're bringing in, and it's such a projection. So like us being that number and Duke being the number behind us is still just a projection. Like, people are trying to figure it out. Now, after you play 25 games, it's not a projection. Right now it's a projection. But, that's just the way it is. Like, deal with it. Like, people aren't sitting there putting Duke and leapfrogging us because they beat the 19th ranked team in the country. They're doing it because they beat the number 1 ranked team in the country, who was runner-up national champs last year, who has a really, really, really good team, really good coach. So, like, to me, it's, it's here nor there. It doesn't really matter. But if somebody's got to acquire a chip on their shoulder through it on our team and help them play better, great. But, like, I don't want to answer that really for them. But from my point of view, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, and the other thing that I would say is, like, all those people there in that little, like, bundle of teams now, Baylor won a national championship. Gonzaga was runner-up national champs. Villanova and North Carolina, they've won 3 out of the past 5 national championships. Like, you can go on and on. Duke with all the success that they have. If you want to have that kind of clout and jump and leapfrog people and do different things, well, go to a Final Four and win a national championship then. And then when it comes back around its next turn and you do those type of things, now maybe you get that benefit. But, you can't turn your nose up to Duke. They've earned that, in my opinion. They've been very, very successful for a very long time. And so, but like I said, like, if this was the end of the year, like, you know, you would have an argument. But this isn't the end of the year. People are still – I actually vote on one of them. So I voted for the Big Ten, you know, in terms of that. So I obviously voted for Purdue #1, but I'm a hair biased.
More with Coach when we come back. Coach Matt Painter Radio Show. It's brought to you by GEMCO. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
Ivy quickly to the goal and puts it in.
They are a hard-cutting team, Purdue. Dive.
Loose ball. Edey gets on the floor, and it's saved. Here comes Ivy. Stefanovic gets another. Kick out McCoy.
Watch this speed.
Ivy, great look as he finds Caleb.
Yes, sir. Speaking of USA basketball.
Dawson Garcia with 13. Stefanovic with 14. And Ivy just bullied his way to the basket there.
See that stop and start?
Ivy.
Oh, yeah.
Rattles it home. It's another three.
That is hard to do.
3.5 to go at a 7-point Purdue advantage. Ivy rejects the screen, kicks back. First to three. Got it!
Notice that yesterday we watched practice. A lot of sharp ball movement, spacing. Watch out.
Oh, look out! Jaden Ivy.
Look at this. Watch out. Hello! Kerwin Walton was too open. Look at his speed.
Ivy. Stefanovic. Oh, baby.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Inside. And here's Ivy.
Here he comes.
Full head of steam. Taps and buries one. Walton the other way. High off the window. Edey rebounds. Ivy. Euro step off the glass.
Ivy just made some money.
Jaden Ivy with 20 points.
Here on the Matt Painter Radio Show. For those watching on video tonight, maybe Facebook Live or Twitter Live or YouTube, you hopefully have noticed the Larry Clisby bobblehead sitting up here on the table with us tonight. First 2,000 people in the building Friday night for the Iowa game. Remember, that's a 9 o'clock tip. The first 2,000 fans will receive the Larry Clisby bobblehead. And by the way, it does have a little button here that if you push it, it says bullseye. We don't have enough time in this segment, Coach, to talk about what all Cliz has meant to Purdue basketball, but it's going to be a special night Friday night.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool, you know, to see his name go up in the rafters and, you know, all the years that, you know, he gave to this program. And it was a, you know, was a big part of this program. You know, it's people don't understand, like when you win, man, it's you just get ready for the next game. And when you lose, you're miserable. Like anybody who's around you, like you try not to put that on them because it's not fair to them, but you are miserable. Like you go 35-4, you're miserable 4 times a year. Like, but those teams that go 4-30, like, I mean, like just like in those tough years, like you just want to start a support group for them. But like he was all in that way. And like, you know, he didn't want to talk. You lost. He didn't want to talk to you. He didn't want to say anything. He wanted to get to that next game. But obviously he's missed, and he was a big part of our program. And so this will be a great night to honor him.
It's Friday night. This right here, for those watching on the video, fans, first 2,000 in the building get the Larry Clisby bobblehead. Final segment of the show coming up in a moment. This is Boilermaker basketball from Learfield.
In goal, right back to Horvath, and he ran into his tight end, Payne Durham. The ball squirts out, a flag on the play. O'Connell appeared to flop on top of the ball. Clean pocket for Grimmel. On the check down, it's Irvin Poindexter, a walk-on himself. He's out across the 40-yard line to the 41.
There it is.
Grimmel tries to step through, cannot escape. Branson Dean, another Indianapolis native, with the sack. Grimmel steps up. George Karlaftis wraps him up. And a 5-yard loss on the sack. Standing defensive linemen that have come through this program. 3rd and 14. Caught by the tight end Hendershot. He was originally at the first line of scrimmage to start this drive. Nowhere close to a first down. Given to the top player in college football who began his career as a walk-on. He picks up a fumble there and is tackled by Branson Dean. 3rd down.
You're going to make this game get blown out of the water by Purdue.
3rd and a mile. Screen to Hendershot, the tight end, who shrugs off Jalen Graham, but didn't even get to the 30-yard line. 4th down.
Here he is right here on the outside, and they're in that 4-3 with those linebackers in.
Grimmel in trouble. And finally thrown down. Kydron Jenkins finished him off. First drive of the second half. 4-man rush. Grimmel complete to Hendershot. Play clock almost expired. The sweep to Childers goes nowhere. Kieran Douglas with the tackle. First and 10 from the 30. Grant Grimmel nearly threw a pick. His tight end.
Final segment, everyone, of the Matt Painter Radio Show. Thank you. If you have chosen to join us tonight, be a part of our program. We'll be back here next Monday at Wolfies Grill to talk Purdue basketball with Coach Painter at 6 o'clock. So, again, thanks so much for joining us. A little nugget here to impress all your friends tomorrow at the water cooler. When you're talking about the Florida State game tomorrow with your coworkers and your friends, you say to them, you know what, I hope this game doesn't go to overtime. And they'll say, why? And you say, because did you know that Florida State has won 12 straight overtime games in a row? That's an NCAA record. 12 straight overtime games in a row, including the last game they just played. They won in overtime over Boston University to give them 12 in a row. That's an NCAA record, 12 straight overtime victories. And then you can say, and you know, remember, our Boilermakers are part of that streak of 12 because it was 2 years ago, the Emerald Coast Classic, you'll remember, in Destin. We lost in the championship game of that tournament to Florida State, 63-60 in overtime. And if you really want to impress them, mention, you know what? That was exactly 2 years ago today, because November 30th, 2019 is when Florida State knocked us off on that particular evening. Tomorrow, of course, is November 30th, 2021. Now, is that a nugget or what? Huh? See, you can impress all your friends tomorrow with that one. Tomorrow, folks, 6:30 for the broadcast, 7:30 for the tip. 6:30 the broadcast, 7:30 the tip. Big Ten ACC Challenge, Purdue and Florida State. And then coming up Friday, Larry Clisby Recognition Night at Mackey Arena. Yes, the Cliz. First 2,000 in the building, get the Larry Clisby bobblehead. And that game, by the way, is 9 o'clock. It's a late game Friday. Remember, late game, it's 9 o'clock for the Big Ten opener against Iowa. 8 o'clock for the broadcast, and then 9 o'clock for the tip on Friday night, the Big Ten opener against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Our in-studio engineer today was Ray Klabmeyer, Wes Scott, audio engineer on site. For the coach, I'm Rob Blackman. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk tomorrow night from Mackey Arena. Good night, everyone.